Is this thing public now? I don't know. Nobody's here. But this is just a test. You need to change the video resolution. So support for this configuration. I see. Hey! Do I have a viewer? Concurrent viewers, 1 like. I'm just playing around with going live. Hey! Sorry, I can't pronounce this name. Marmarone? I hope I said this right. Oh my god, Gabriel, hey! From Brazil, this is awesome! Hey guys! Can you see my screen? Is everything alright? I'm just playing around with going live for the very first time. And wow, we already have 13 concurrent viewers. This is amazing. Hey Darren! Hello there! Maron is the pronunciation. Okay. I hope I said this right. Sorry if I didn't and butcher your name. Really sorry about that. Yeah, welcome to this short test. It's just, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. Currently here it's 1 p.m. in Germany. Morocco, India. Awesome, nice guys. Welcome. This is crazy. And yeah, my wife is just picking up our baby. And I thought, okay, now I got 10 minutes to play around with going live here on YouTube. And I don't know, I just have to set this up with OBS and Visual Studio here. So can you see my screen? This is the most important. Yeah, of course the sound is low. Because yes, the mic. Is the sound better now? Let's hear it. Yeah, first time live. Okay, Darren, thank you. I want to play this with Blazor e-commerce and it really helped me. You're welcome. Thank you very much for watching. All right, so what do you guys want to see in the future? Because I think this live thing can be very, very nice for me and a lot of fun. And I don't know, maybe you saw the video about vertical slice architecture. I think this was, let me pull up my my content here. Have you seen it? This is the dashboard. My content. So here, vertical slice architecture. Have you seen this video? There it is. Okay, Tanaka, questions? Yeah, we can do that, of course. But I think I have to change one setting here. So you also hear the desktop sound. I'm not sure if you can.
What about the other ones?
This.
Well, looks like that.
Delay.
Pretty similar. We inject the DB context.
Can you see, first of all, the video, and did you hear the sound? This would be interesting. More parent-child table relationships to show. Okay. Any project idea in mind? Awesome. All right. So, of course, we can do some kind of projects with more parent-child table relationships in SQL Server, for instance, and while doing that, also using vertical slice architecture. Because I'm really getting to love this architecture, and for one of my next videos, I am actually planning on doing that stuff here. Now, this is an API. I'm just, as you can see here in the project name, this is prep, this is preparation. Redson, all right, I will write this down later. Doing some Redson stuff. Actually, this would be a nice project to just do the API maybe with Blazor WebAssembly then as a client, and then use Redson for a client project where we then use this API. Or what I also like here, in particular about Blazor and Blazor Server, because there's a lot of, let's say, hate, I think, about Blazor since .NET 8 and all the render modes. I'm not sure how you think about all the render modes, guys, but I like them. And you can do a lot already with Blazor static server-side rendering or just server. And as you can see here, maybe this is, well, this is now a .NET Web API, but with a Blazor server project, what I like is that in essence, the server project also has all the API capabilities, right? So what you can then do is using the same architecture, vertical slice architecture, and then decide if you want to use your components, your Blazor components, also here directly in these feature folders. I think I will when you like this live stuff here, I think I can do some deeper projects, let's say, where we use the vertical slice architecture together with Blazor server, and not only have the endpoints here, because as you can see here now with CQRS and mediator, we have a command, we have a response, the corresponding handler, and then also the endpoint. But zombie connection, pool manager connection, Victor. What's that? Are these points you want to see in some tutorials? Tell me that. Anyways, about this architecture with CQRS, and here you see the endpoint, but of course, maybe as you know, all right, with Blazor server, you don't need the endpoint actually, right? Because we do not have this typical SPA architecture, single page application where you have the server on the back end and then some kind of client framework. In the past, I used Angular, now Blazor, where you then do these web service calls, right? So these are all interesting topics, in my opinion, that we can cover. Thank you very much. I love you guys. We have, let me just see how many people I got here now when I find YouTube Studio again. 21. Oh, this is nice. And we had 98 views. This is interesting. You use ChatGPT. How often do you use ChatGPT? I use ChatGPT. I do, because in my opinion, if you say, how do I say this? If you are a developer, already experienced, but even as a beginner, and you say, no, to be a real developer, you don't use AI, sorry, but I think this is BS. But you still have to be careful. GPT is of great help. I can definitely say that, but you have to pay attention. So sometimes, I don't know, if you need some kind of code, you just have no idea how to implement it right away, you can prompt GPT and then it will give you an answer. But still, mandatory in my opinion is that you still know how to write code and use the technology you want to use. What I don't like and what I don't think is the future is this new term vibe coding. I always thought vibe coding is you put on some music and then just code along. But vibe coding, I don't know, maybe you heard it already, that good morning Martin, here it is actually 1 p.m. But anyways, vibe coding is this new way where people just prompt any AI, GPT for instance. GPT will give you some kind of code, and then it will they just try to copy and paste it and repeat this process until it works. I don't think this is the right approach, okay? So yeah, GPT, definitely use GPT, use maybe Copilot. I don't have a lot of experience with GitHub Copilot, honestly. I just installed it because now it's for free, never paid for it. And sometimes it has okay suggestions and I use them, but sometimes it doesn't. And with GPT, it is a little bit different. I have more experience with GPT, and maybe there I have... I don't know, maybe I just know how to prompt it in a better way. Sometimes it's also nice to paste some error messages there, and it helps faster. So it can be of great help. It can be of great help to develop faster, but still you really should know what's going on there. So yeah, this is my take so far, short take on GPT. Do you want to see more GPT content? Maybe also live? So that, I don't know, maybe we can play around building an application, API, Blazor stuff, whatever, and use GPT and then compare, okay, what is GPT saying, what is GPT suggesting, and what do you think then should be the right approach to develop that kind of application? Would that be something for you? Thanks, Jasper, really appreciate it. I think when starting a project, vibe coding may be advantageous, but as the scope increases, AI, if anything, may slow you down as you keep prompting and going down a rabbit hole of sorts. Yeah, definitely. Lately I saw a YouTube short from Thor, private software. Maybe you know him. He develops games and is a Twitch streamer. And he told a story about a manager who said that they are actually faster with AI or with GPT. But then it turned out that they started fast, but then they had to get some developers to fix all the errors that the AI generated. But still the managers said, well, yeah, but in the beginning we were faster. So yeah, that's so much about GPT or AI and vibe coding. So I don't know. It is great for brainstorming sometimes, fixing errors sometimes maybe. If you, I don't know all the syntaxes in my mind. I don't have everything in my mind. So sometimes it's great. Now, instead of Googling or using Stack Overflow, then GPT is of great help. But I would really not recommend to build a complete project. All right. So yeah, but we can definitely play around with GPT. We should do that. AI tools are definitely changing the game and speeding up development like never before. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. It is speeding up development. I'm totally with you, Martin. But please pay attention still. And I don't know if this will change, but I'm not an AI expert. I'm using it. It's a great tool. So yeah, I would like to see a video course on how to set up clean architecture in a Blazor auto server and wasm project. Getting stuck with that and those render modes all the time. Yes. Again, the render modes. Let me see if I can pull up a project real quick. This is from actually the .NET Web Academy and the Clean Architecture course there. So what we did here, as you can see, is wait a sec. I have to pay attention with my bubble, so you really see everything. But what you can see here is you have all the layers, right? Typical stuff: application layer, domain layer, infrastructure, and then regarding the presentation. In this specific case, we start in the academy there with the server project, so it's easier, right, to build it up. So we start real small, and then we build the backend. And regarding the presentation layer, we first use Blazor SSR even, and then Blazor server for interactivity, and then we move on with the client. And I think the last video with the render modes, about the render modes, this should help to add the client afterwards. All right, so maybe this can already help, because regarding the layers and clean architecture, I think it's important that you have these projects: application, domain, infrastructure. But then regarding presentation, it's maybe is always the same, because the first entry point would be your server project. So the Blazor project, in essence, the Blazor web app project. You can use the web app template there. And then regarding the client, this is only for WebAssembly. You only need the client project for WebAssembly. So you add this one, and you can use the Blazor standalone project there, the standalone template. And then it's actually, I hope, not that hard, because you can just use your components and you can define your render modes, as you can see here, right? So here I'm even using the auto render mode. The tricky part about the auto render mode is that similar to pre-rendering, you need implementations for the server and for the client. It's always the same. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually easy. Of course, it is a pitfall. You can fall into it. But what's important here is that, for instance, you have server implementations, right? Then it's easy. You also you always implement your stuff here in the server project, no matter if it's the component or any, let's say, backend logic where you want to access data from the database, whatever it is. But as soon as you start using the client with WebAssembly or the auto render mode, in that case, then you need an HTTP call, right? So you should see it here. that, yeah, we have the HTTP client registered here, and also a service in this particular case, an articles overview service. This now means that here in the articles overview, this is a blog application, I should tell you that. So I added then some kind of admin dashboard there where you can see all the articles you wrote in a table, or here we're actually using QuickGrid for that. So if you want to use the auto render mode, then you need let's say service implementation on the server, because the auto render mode will start on the server, right? With the WebSocket connection and with Blazor server, it uses Blazor server for that. So all the logic then is here in the server actually. But then when you downloaded the WebAssembly stuff and you want to load the component from the cache with WebAssembly, this is what the auto mode is doing in the end, then you also need some kind of implementation on the client, and this is then this articles overview service. This would be the example here where you then see, okay, I'm injecting the HTTP client, I have my get from JSON call, patch call, and so on, whatever you need. All right, so that's that. Now I got some more questions. Would you ever consider building the API as a separate project from your Blazor project? Yeah, why not? I mean, the thing is, never did this, always wanted to, is actually building a MAUI app and using Blazor Hybrid for that, because it would be really interesting to, yes, build the API as just a standalone .NET API project, for instance, or combining it with Blazor and then see how can I reuse the Blazor code for an for an app for your smartphone. This is what I would love to do, but as always, time, right? So, but yeah, maybe it's interesting, and for this particular case, could make sense to use the API as a separate project. We did this in the past. Every SPA, every single page application I built was separated. We had a .NET Web API as the backend project, and then we used in my case, we used Angular. I was an Angular guy. Started with AngularJS, then later Angular 2, and so on. Never touched React or Vue.js, but with Angular, it actually was amazing. But still, you had to build your DTOs twice, in essence, right? Or your models, even. So then, when Blazor came, it was just crazy. It was amazing. All right, would it make sense to have a component in the client project that is presentational only and just gets its data from the parent server side component? Not really getting what you mean by parent server side component. You need some kind of logic in the end to get the data. It would be tricky if you want to combine a WebAssembly and a server component at the same time. I would have to try this, but in the end, I would do similar to the way that I just showed you. Page component in the server project. The client side component may just emit events. I'm not sure if this really would work, because I can imagine as soon as you start using a Blazor WebAssembly component, then the whole thing, right, is using or wants to use Blazor WebAssembly. So this can indeed be tricky. If you have a page that uses Blazor server and then you have a component in that thing that should use Blazor WebAssembly, I have to try that. So I hope you can remember everything, and maybe this would also be an interesting tutorial, so thanks for the idea. But there are other questions. Let me just see. Let's see a video course on how to, this was the clean architecture one. More job opportunities in backend development compared to front-end. Full stack. Managers, I think, well, as always, it depends. We like full stack developers. And in the company I work for, we train our developers to know the backend stuff and also the front end stuff, right? So we have the tech stack at work, Angular and .NET, but also Angular and Node.js backend. But we also have Blazor and .NET, and I love the Blazor and .NET part. So it helps to know both, actually. But then again, I always say, do what you like, what's more fun to you. Because, for instance, in another company where I worked for, 5 years ago, I think. No, 6 years ago. There we built an health app, and we used Scrum with sprints as project management tool, let's say. And the great thing there was I was only the backend, or one of the backend developers. So we used .NET, or we used .NET in general with EF Core and stuff. And it was fun to talk to the front end guys who used Angular and built the front end there, because then with Skype calls and so on, we really used Skype back then. We talked about the DTOs, what are the members of the DTOs. So that was fun. And then my expertise back then was, the backend development, right, of the .NET Web API and all the services and stuff that we did there. And it was more fun for me because I came, before that, I was in a company where I did everything. We did a .NET backend. It's a history lecture here. But regarding the backend, we did not, I know it's crazy, but we did not use a web API, no REST services. Back then even, I think this even was not the time of .NET Core. It was .NET Framework, but at least we had Web API 2, right? Not .NET Core with a Web API, but a Web API 2. But the company used WCF services, so not even using REST, but SOAP. Really old stuff, but still it worked. And there I implemented a lot with the front end. I started using AngularJS there, because before we used Vanilla.js and jQuery, and then I saw AngularJS is great, tried it at home, and then I went to my boss and said, hey, I saw this framework, I think we can use this, and it makes sense, and it did. And then we used that one. But long story short, in this position, I did both. Then in another position, I did only the backend because I wanted to move on with .NET in my career, let's say. I just love .NET so much more than all the JavaScript stuff. And then in the company where I am now, I am a full stack developer. So I'm doing both. The more you can, right? The more skills you have, the better it is. Okay. Let me just scroll through the chat a little. You can use AI to assist with coding, generating snippets, debugging, and explaining concepts, but it's best to review and test everything yourself. Exactly. JB, this is exactly correct. I'm totally with you. You can definitely use it for debugging, explaining concepts also amazing, but still sometimes you have to pay attention. When I ask GPT for something and I'm not really sure, did I understand this properly lately? And I also want to make a video about that. Lately, I came across the Reaper pattern, right? It's actually, what we do here in this project, we have a command, a response, and the handler. This is CQRS, and it is using mediator. But in the end, this is, in my opinion, and as I understand it correctly, if I understand it correctly, it's also the Reaper pattern, which stands for request, endpoint, response, right? So what you want to do is, in this single file, you want to have your request, which is this command in essence, implementing the iRequest interface from the mediator package by Jimmy Bogart, who also talks a lot about the vertical slice architecture, so great guy. Then we have the handler for the logic, and then the response, and down here now is the endpoint. In this particular case, it's a controller, but I have another branch here with a minimal API. And then you have this other package, Carter, which is amazing, because my problem with minimal APIs was that in the program CS, you would have to register the minimal API, the endpoint here, right? So usually when you start with minimal APIs, you have, well, for a simple CRUD operation, it's just 4 lines of code maybe, where you register your endpoints. Then you can use route groups, that's correct. It's better, I think, cleaner. But with Carter, what Carter is doing is it scans your whole project and then registers your endpoints on the fly, let's say. So what you can then do is here now, instead of using a controller, if you don't want to use traditional controllers, you can just use an endpoint like this thing here. So with map post API games, you can get all the games. Then I have to tell you that you see here that we are using a mediator with the sender and the send function. And under one of my under the vertical slice YouTube video, there was a comment about why using mediator here doesn't really make sense, because we have everything we need in this one file. Yes, this is true, and this is totally correct. But still, what I like about when you use mediator, it kind of forces you to use this structure, right? So I want you then to implement the iRequest interface. And when you implement this thing, then you have to also implement the handle method with the handler. When you're using the handler, that's the right way to say it. When you're using the handler and implement the iRequest handler there, then you also have to implement the handle method. So it gives you structure. You don't need it. It is definitely not necessary, but it gives you structure. And then when you're not only building an API, but using a Blazor, for instance, in this case, I will do a video about that, maybe live. Let's see. But because it's amazing, we got 64 concurrent viewers currently. So thank you so much. What did I want to say? Yeah, when you're using Blazor, then it even makes more sense to use mediator, because maybe then you want to use the sender and the send. This is my wife, I think. She's down there with our baby, so I have to stop the little live session here. I'm really sorry about that. Let me just look through the chat. Would you ever consider building API? Yep. Do you use plugin projects? Could you elaborate there, please? What do you mean with plugin projects? Thank you. How do you handle authentication and authorization using best practices? Wow, this is a big question. There are so many options. I like .NET Identity, .NET Core Identity, because it's battle tested. But you can also use Keycloak. Auth0 is also a great option. So yeah, lots and lots of stuff. How many companies use CQRS? I don't know. I did not count. And CQRS is great, in particular in combination with clean architecture. But you have to really think about, do you actually need it? It is great when you start with it, because maybe whatever you're building, this thing might grow and scale. So it might get really, really big. So in that case, it totally makes sense. But there are so many apps that are small enough or have this mid-size, middle size, then I have to go. I'm really sorry. And for that, I think vertical slice architecture is totally fine. Okay, guys, I'm really sorry. I have to go. But this was the very first live stream. So thank you so much for joining. If you want more of these live streams, usually I would do it maybe in the evening. So currently it's 1:30 p.m. my time. I think 8 p.m. is it works better because the children are asleep and so on. So yeah, tell me if you want more live. Tell me that in, I don't know, maybe in the comments. Maybe I will just publish this video. Tell me in the chat, whatever. Send me an email. Thank you so much for joining. This was great. 60 viewers here currently live. This is amazing. So I have to end the stream. Sorry about that. Now my little baby girl has to sleep and I put her to sleep. So I hope we see each other. See you next time. Bye-bye. See ya.